What's up, Digidestins? This is Kyle D, better known as Ridemyavatar, and today we're going to be going over none other than a couple top decks in Japan. This is going to be a new series I'm going to try to start up. We're going to look at the newest format, go over a couple decks, and explain what their kind of gimmicks are for the newest format for JP. If you like this, remember, just let me know down in the comments. It really would give me some positive feedbacks, and let's dive right into this video. So the first deck we're going to be talking about is none other than BlackWargreymon with Gaomon. So Gaomon really is interesting, is that it brings into this new playstyle because it can digivolve on top of your BlackWargreymon. So it's X-Antibody themed with the BlackWargreymon. Since we know what BlackWargreymon does, he kind of punishes any hybrid decks or any decks that really want to play a high tamer count because it can pop majority of these wide tamers. You got a tamer that is 2 cost and a 4 cost. You can pop 2 and boom, you're kind of just removing threats that they're gaining extra memory with and stuff like that, and then you just can choke them out again. So that is kind of the theme with BlackWargreymon. He either pops something, just totals out the play cost, and then he has the ability when your opponent's Digimon are deleted, you can unsuspend this Digimon. So he allows for multi-attacking, which could help out in ways, shape, or form of getting extra attacks in, stuff like that. So it's just really very powerful deck with the effects of the new promo Metal Greymon Alterius mode here is really nasty. So when this Digimon is also treated as Metal Greymon, so this card is both Metal Greymon and Alterius mode, which is really good. But when digivolving, if you have a tamer in play, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 5,000 DP or less. And then if an effect would delete this Digimon with Greymon or Omnimon in its name, or return it to your hand or deck, it may prevent it by leaving play by discarding 2 cards with the same level as this card's Digi-Evolution. With the same level in this card's Digi-Evolution. So since we can spam our ultimates very easily because they can digivolve on top of each other, so we can go very easily even in Greymon's too. So it just gets really interesting because this can digivolve onto a Greymon that isn't color restricted either. So you can digivolve onto the black Greymon here for free, build it up a few times. Well, build this up, now you have 2 sources to feed into the Metal Greymon, but it also has the same effect for Alterius mode. So it's really good to see multiple cards have a protection effect to keep your boss Digimon on board. So the only problem, it doesn't protect against the minusing DP aspects. So you're going to have to keep that in mind when you're thinking about it, is that you're going to not be able to get around yellow minusing your DP out. But that's fine. Allowing us to also, what's nasty about this deck, because these cards are also treated with Greymon in their names, you can use Nokia here to lower their cost. So he costs 2 to digivolve on top of BlackWargreymon. Rest 2 Nokias, now your BlackWargreymon evolution is free, and now you get this card with a security attack, reboot, and DDG evolution, which is really nasty, and it gains blitz, so you can blitz for game after you clear out a couple security. Good other card that you might want to run is the security Greymon that gives extra security tech, but you can play a game of Protect My King with this because the Protect the Castle, I mean, is because you have the promo Alterius mode here, and then you also have X-Antibody Greymon just giving you added benefit protection. We run dedicated plan to help negate the things that your opponent's going to have for options and stuff like that. Yellow kind of keeps getting nastier and nastier as the sets go on, and you want to just shut off all those options. So, and then we also have X-Antibody in here. This card is really nice because security, gain 1 memory, add this card to hand, but it's placed this card at the bottom of your Digi-Evolution cards of one of your Digimon without X-Antibody in its Digi-Evolution cards. So early on, if you are facing anything that's called blue hybrid or blue removal with their sources and stuff like that, you can put it under the Agumon first, where you start climbing further and further up, and they can't rip the sources and they can't stun this card at all. So it just keeps swinging in because this card cannot be trashed by this Digi-Evolution cards by card effects, and you may Digivolve this Digimon into a Digimon in your hand with X antibody in its traits by paying its Digi-Evolution cost. So he'll keep constantly climbing up with paying the cost. So just keep that in mind. Just having extra extensions is really nice. And then we also have Cool Boy, which reveals 3 cards, adds our X antibodies to our hand if we get one, and 1 option with X antibody as trait. So if we get the X antibody card, you're gonna possibly add 2. But it also has the same thing as Nokia, but gains 1 memory. And so this one has slightly different. When one of your Digimon digivolves into the Digimon with the same level as that X antibody and trait, you may suspend this tamer to gain 1 memory and draw a card. So he pretty much pays for anything, and he's an instant plus. So if you digivolve on top of this Metal Greymon with the X antibody, you're gaining a memory, drawing 2 cards, 1 for the Digi-Evolution and 1 for the Cool Boy. So just straight up control slash, you know, taking out your opponent over the course of the game, and just really strong boss Digimon that can't be removed outside of minus DPs. So that's kind of what BlackWargreymon X antibody is kind of going for this set, and I think that's a very good linear line going. Then we have Grandis Kuwagamon. This deck is OTK Kuwagamon on steroids, and let me explain why I'm saying this. So what you can do is set up a Kukuwamon. So this card will gain you a security check if you're a level 6. This can stay in the sources, but then you can just keep building up with Kuwagamon X antibody here on play. Reveal. You're not even caring about this. It digivolves for 0 in the raising area. What you're going to do is build a massive stack in the raising area, bring in Grand Kuwagamon, Digiburst everything out, minus probably if you have Kuwaga and Minomon. This now allows you to have like 3 extra security checks. And what gets nasty is, or you'll keep certain cards that'll give you inheritable traits of piercing, and then you'll swing in, and if this Digimon has Grand Kuwaga or X antibody in its Digi-Evolution card, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon and unsuspend this Digimon. So he'll unsuspend himself at the end of the attack if he survives. So he'll go 4 security checks by himself, and that's nasty. And he only costs 1 to digivolve onto your Grand Kuwagamon that you're just making a bunch of security checks for. What's really nasty about this card is this promo here. And what makes this deck tick is this card. So when this Digimon digivolves into a Digimon with insectoids in his traits, all your opponent's Digimon get all turns when this Digimon is suspended lose 1 memory until the end of your next opponent's turn. So since we can rest and suspend their Digimon, it will help us out in the long run. When this Digimon with insectoids in his trait, this Digimon gains piercing your turn. So what's nasty is this is immediately activating onto the stack. It's not a continuous check. So once you digivolve into this, or even have this, it checks at the beginning of your turn. If it is an insectoid, and instantly gives the inheritable this new effect of piercing. So now you can digiburst all your sources minus this card if you have extra security checks, and now your opponent is kind of screwed in a way that they weren't really ready to handle this, because now you're going to be throwing out massive amount of security checks. So Grand Kuwagamon style is really nasty going forwards, and you're just building up so much free stacks because of these X antibody cards. That Grand Kuwagamon into Grandis Kuwagamon is just so nasty because you'll swing in, they'll lose a couple threats. Your power level is just massive because he's a base 16, and what is your opponent really going to do? So just keep that in mind. We also play this Terriermon so that we can mitigate Mimi being a 4 cost to a 3 cost or even less. You have Cool Boy here to help us gain memory when we go into our Grandis Kuwagamon plays. It's just really nasty. And then we do have X antibody. Again, This card is just straight up for answering our opponents trying to remove our sources and shutting our grandest Kuwagamon down. So, I mean, you can't trash it for the Digiburst, so it doesn't count. But what you could do is Digiburst everything, then play the X antibody underneath it so that they can't lock you down afterwards. And then Grandest Kuwaga stays up, Digivolve on top of it. Boom, you're all set and your opponent's kind of done for. And then what you could do is, if you have an unsuspended Mimi and you have a couple memory left, Beetlemon for game. Just straight up nastiness. And we also do play the Palmon just to Digiburst out and just hopefully keep us alive. So it's a really interesting deck, but we also have one more, and this is BlackWargreymon with Yellow Hybrid. So the core option of decks is that when you would play this card, reduce the play costs by 3 for each of your opponent's Digimon and Tamer in play. So the longer the game goes, your opponent might have a couple of these, and boom, this comes out. Digivolve all your opponent's Digimon, and then delete all your opponent's Digimon level 4 or less. But at the end of your opponent's turn, delete all your opponent's Digimon with the lowest play cost. He's constantly checking and checking and checking and checking and checking and board wiping or removing threats left and right. So he's just a big boss Digimon that's going to get cost less as the game goes on, and once you play him out, he's nasty. Or you can Digivolve him on top of your Ophanimon Fall Down mode, and that's what your probably main game plan is. But if you have this Digimon has a purple Digievolution, delete one of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. If this Digimon has a yellow Digievolution, trigger recovery +1, which that's what you're going to be Digivolving on top of your Jet Sylphie with, and you're just going to keep, you'll recover twice, and then on deletion, play one purple or yellow level 4 or lower Digimon from your trash without paying its memory cost. Just a lot of recovery based stuff. So it's security control with a very powerful boss Digimon at its top end. Jet Sylphie being Jet Sylphie. You have Chaos Degeneration, which is nasty, because place one of your opponent's Digimon at the top or the bottom of their security stack face down. If you do, trash the top card of your opponent's security stack. So basically guaranteed to put one on top and then kill something off. Or better yet, you get to put something that might have caused lethal on top, and then if it gets checked in security, it just stays there. So they're kind of losing out on a resource and lose out that whole stack. So it just becomes very threatening. We have plenty of, filters and cards to grab us, but we also play this card here. This card comes out in BT8 because if she sets your memory to 3, but when a card is added to your security stack, you may suspend this Tamer to gain 1 memory. She feeds into Jet Sylphie, so after you do a Kazi or Zerafimon play on top of a Tamer, Kyrie can rest if you go into Jet Sylphie, pretty much making it free cost for your Jet Sylphie play, which are really nasty, and you can't mitigate it. Reinforced memory boost, Wyvern's Breath. But we also play this TK and Izzy being able to, if you have a level 5 or higher Digimon, gain 1 memory. If your opponent has a level 5 or higher Digimon, gain 1 memory. So it'll either gain you 1 memory or gain you 2, or even so. It's never bad. And then when one of your yellow or green Digimon Digivolves, suspend this Tamer to have one of your opponent's Digimon get minus 1000 DP until the end of your opponent's next turn. So just keep that in mind. It's just a lot of deletion, minusing effects, and just straight up power. So, and then we also have these purple cards, So Zeomon is in here for the retaliation, so you can swing into the big guy. Rested for the Saichimon. So all turns your opponent cannot reduce play costs. So it helps counteract Dexmon if they are playing Dexmon. But and any other cards like Beelzestar and stuff like that, even if that was a deck anymore. But I think this is a great look at what JP's kind of doing. Let me know down in the comments what you think, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace!